Hi, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Rock Your Shine. I know that my dear followers, when I had a regular podcast out, and now I'm just peppering in, I'm just doing these little podcasts when I feel moved to do so. And so today I'm very excited about my guests. We have Alyson Shelton here today. And Allison is an award-winning screenwriter and essayist. Her writing is widely published at outlets including the New York Times, Miss, and the Rumpus. She's deeply proud of her collaborations with other female creatives, most notably the comic Reburn and the film To Hold the Night. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words, you guys. She's anthologized in collections including Comics Lit Volume 1, No Contact, 28 Writers on Family Estrangement, and Root Cause Stories of Health Harm and Reclaiming Our Humanity. She's best known for her Instagram live series inspired by George Ella Lyon's poem, Where I'm From, where she's hosted close to 200 writers. The poem also provides the spine for her forthcoming memoir. My second guest is Lynn Shattuck, and she has been publishing essays on the topic of sibling loss for more than a decade. She was a paid columnist at Elephant Journal for 10 years. Several of her essays on the topic of grief and sibling loss have gone viral. Her writing has also appeared on the Huffington Post, Human Parts, Vice, The Fix, and how do you pronounce that? El Jazeera? Is that right, Lynn? I can't. Okay. Along with her partners, Molly Fowkes and Alyson Shelton, Lynn co-founded The Loss of a Lifetime, a community and resource for grieving siblings. So what the three of us have in common is that we have all lost a sibling. And I am so thrilled and excited. I'm having them on to talk about their new anthology, which is titled The Loss of a Lifetime, Grieving Siblings Share Stories of Love, Loss, and Hope. It is a collection of 26 writers who share their feelings, their thoughts, their grieving process on losing their sibling, whether that was an estranged sibling or their very best friend. I am so excited to be a part of it. Thank you, ladies. And so the soft launch is going to be on June, is it the 3rd? And
hmm
the book launch, the hard launch, I don't know what we're calling it, is on the 17th. So I have invited both of them on to share in their process for a project that is very, very special and that they have put their heart and soul into for a very long time. Lynn will tell you that she's been working on it for 26 years. So welcome, ladies. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. I guess my first question is to both of you. What inspired the idea of this anthology? And the follow-up question is, how did you find all the writers that it included in the anthology? So please, anyone can start.
Mm. This is always Lynn's. She's been thinking of it the longest by far.
Yeah, so my brother died in 1999, and at that time there were like zero books on sibling loss. And I think at some point in my grief, I started thinking, well, maybe I need to make that change. And honestly, I always say, like, honestly, I kind of kept thinking someone else would do it. But 26 years later, and there are more resources than there used to be. Susan, you wrote a book on the topic that's beautiful. We know of several others, but there's this. I think this is the first, to my knowledge,
hmm
collection of siblings telling their own stories in their own words and their own voice and their own tone. Um, yeah. And in terms of finding writers, I've kind of been connecting with people for years, probably in the last 4 or 5 years, actively, kind of gently, slowly gathering a community of writers. And then when Allison and I connected, that opened the door to people that
hmm
she had met, and I'll let you
And
share that.
Allison,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was,
why don't
go
you
ahead.
speak to how the two of you how you even connected?
Met. It's funny, we met on social media. And we were in this thing called a comment pod for Instagram that Allison K. Williams and Ashley Renard, who are two people we know, set up. And so we didn't know each other. And we started following each other and commenting on each other's posts. And Lynn writes about sibling loss. And this was during the pandemic. And I read her work and I felt seen in a way that I had never felt seen before. And certainly I was a delayed mourner. Like I mean, there was a lot of chaos in my childhood and abuse, and the death of my brother really took a back seat to a lot of the other things that were happening. And just reading her work, I felt Michael, and I started to really consider how significant that loss was. And so I would comment on Lynn's posts like, oh my brother also died. We have this in common. And then we would talk a bit more. And then she invited me, I think, to the Facebook group, I think, for sibling loss. And she floated the idea of an anthology. And it's funny, I said this recently, like I had seen that people were in anthologies and I thought, oh, that's cool. Like you're in a book with all these voices. Like that's something I would really be into. I wonder how a person, how does that happen? How does that magic happen? And so when Lynn mentioned it, I was like, oh, I'd love to be in it. And so we started talking and I sent her my essay, and then it seemed like it's a really big thing to do by yourself. And I kept sending her people like, oh, well, I know this person, maybe they'd be a good addition. Oh, I know this person, maybe they'd be a good addition. And I offered to potentially, partner up and do this if it felt like that was something that was in alignment with what she was trying to accomplish. It's a tricky thing to offer something like that because you don't want to make someone feel like they need your help or
Right.
if they
No,
want to do it by
yeah.
themselves.
There's like this little fine line, right?
Yeah.
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 Inviting yourself into
Yeah.
something that is, yeah. So Allison, let's go there. I would love for us to talk a little bit for the two of you to talk about your siblings, bring them into the space, because that is obviously what gave me the impetus to write this book in the first place. So Allison, tell us about your brother. When did your brother die?
He died in 1984, which is
Wow.
just staggering, right? In a way that it's still so present for me. He was 24 and I was 10. His name was Michael, and he was my half brother. We have the same father, but their mother died and my mom adopted them. And so I grew up with them. I never really thought much about the half brother thing, but it became very important when he died because it was something that was used to minimize my loss by that side of the family. Like, oh, he's just your half brother. You got like more brothers because I have four brothers. And
Me too.
oh yeah. And I think now with distance and giving myself the space, I I knew he was always like my favorite. That I knew because I felt safe with him, and that was a rare feeling with men in my family. And I think now with space, I realized like he was kind of like a father figure to me. Like he was very significant um, to me. So it felt wrong. It feels wrong when someone dies young, regardless of the circumstances. But I think it felt particularly wrong to me because he was so good.
Yeah.
And there were so many people in my life who were not good.
How did
And
your
that
how did your brother
he
die?
fell off a cliff, which is just wild because if you know Ann Pinkerton,
No, of course
her
I interviewed her for my
right.
podcast. I
So
know her
her
very
her
well.
brother also
I
died
know.
that way. And it was just like, I mean, her brother was an athlete and my brother was just casually out hiking and got altitude sickness and fell off a cliff. And it was definitely something that people laughed about, which is also something that is so, I don't know if either of you have probably not with the experiences with your brothers, but it's just for
That's
me,
bizarre.
I was so blindsided by now I'm used to it. People get really uncomfortable around grief. But when I was a child, I was like barely sharing it with anyone because it felt so, I don't know, not shameful, but not public. And so I would share it, and like someone would just laugh, like, "Oh my God, he fell off a cliff," basically, like, what an idiot. Just like, oh, well, that's not helpful. That doesn't feel good. So then you share it less, right? Like you learn very quickly, oh, this isn't something I can share with people. And then you realize over time that in the act, and Fowkes writes beautifully about this in the anthology, that over time when you aren't sharing it, then you're not sharing this piece of yourself. And it bleeds into so much of your life when you're a series of rooms, and many of the rooms have closed doors.
And also just your tender age of 10. You know,
Yeah.
I ended up volunteering after the death of my brother at the Center for Grieving Children for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have those centers around the country, and especially in 1984,
Right.
I don't, where was the space in the room for a 10-year-old to grieve? Because children grieve so differently. There's nothing linear about a child's grief.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also with parents, right? Bereft parents, I mean, who are grieving the loss of this child, of this, young adult. And um, and I feel that, there is a difference between adult grievers and children who are grieving, and that loss and that hole in the house and the silence. And I don't know, how did your parents handle the death? Like, did you guys talk about it? Like, well, you said that you came from a very abusive home too, so I'm sure that that was,
And abusive in a way that I would never have called it abusive until all the like healing that I've done. It was mostly emotional. There was other, but um, and I want to say too, at that time, and I think still there is this resiliency of children, and that was very much weaponized, right? Like,
yes,
you're 10, you'll get over it,
absolutely.
which is not true. Um, so yeah, my mother was his stepmother. I mean, she also adopted him, and she was completely like erased from everything. It was like, oh, he's not even your kid. So, and then my dad just, I mean, on the one hand, he was completely shut down about it, and on the other, he would just randomly cry.
Yeah.
It was like um, he had lost his wife, my brother's mother, and then he lost his child, and I think he was, I mean, destroyed basically.
Yeah.
And he had no tools, uh, and yeah, it was.
It's amazing how grief, I just saw this vision, like how grief, like they just, when I say they, I'm talking about my spirit team, just showed me concrete with all these fractures in it. And that really is what grief feels like
Yeah.
in families. And nobody knows what to do with it. Nobody knows how to talk about it. And it just creates all of these fractures everywhere. It's really incredible. Lynn, I'm going to roll over to you now. Tell us a little bit about your brother and how he died.
Sure. So my brother's name is Will, and he died when he was 21 in 1999. And sorry, he died from a combination of alcohol and heroin. Um, and
And
yeah,
you were 17, is that right?
no, I was 24. I was
You
older.
were
Yeah.
24. How did your
Yeah.
family handle the loss of your brother?
Um, Yeah, it was different from Allison's story. I was living in Maine at the time, and my parents were in Alaska where we grew up. My brother died in Seattle, so at the time we were kind of spread out, and I ended up moving back home to my childhood home with my parents, who were obviously in deep grief. And um, it was very, like, everyone's grief was very visible in our house. There wasn't a lot of like trying to quiet it or hide it. Because it was substance use related, though, at that point there was, that felt like something that set it apart, and that was like shameful, and there was a stigma there. Um, so yeah,
It's
sorry.
interesting. It's thank you both for sharing that. One of the things that the three of us know, and we've all talked about and written about, is how siblings can feel invisible in their grief for so many different reasons. Parents are grieving. People want it. If the sibling was old enough to have a family, then the spotlight is on the family. And I know that this was very true in my situation. My brother died overseas in Hong Kong, and it was very sudden, and he had a wife and a 3.5-year-old daughter. And, my parents, I felt like there was no space for my grief. I felt like I had to be there for all of the people. And one of the very first things one of my friends said to me after the death of my brother was, you've got to be strong for your parents and your sister-in-law. And I'm like, and I remember feeling this undercurrent of rage as soon as she said it. Like, I was like, first of all, don't tell me what to do. And second of
Yeah.
all, what about me? What about my surviving brothers? It was so terribly painful, as you guys know. And I also, we're all writers and we've all written our way through our grief. And there is so much science behind that, writing through grief, loss, and trauma. And so I'm interested to know from each of you, because this book is so jam-packed with just some exquisite writing, and that has really captured. Gosh, I'm feeling emotional. It's funny how I'll start to get emotional and I don't expect it to come out, but
Yeah.
but
Same.
yeah, the pieces are so intimate and filled with such courage and vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
that are going to touch people, not only if they've lost a sibling, but any kind of loss that they've had, because
Mm-hmm.
the way these writers, they're so raw and true, and the pieces are just really stunning. But I'm interested with the two of you, because I know, Alyson, you were only 10. When did you actually start writing about your grief of your brother? When did that happen for you?
Not until I read Lynn's writing.
Wow.
Uh, and then it was around the same time, not exactly sure the timeline, but a friend of mine who's a photographer whose mother died, was murdered. She does a project where we write to our loss, like to someone who's died. And so around that same time, I wrote a letter to him. Um, and I got so emotional, and you read it and she takes pictures while you're reading the piece. And I got so emotional reading it and thinking about him. And that's part of the reason why when Lynn mentioned the anthology, I was like, oh, I want to be a part of it, because I was not in a place where I felt like I can pitch that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I'm going to sell this. This just feels like something I want to write about. And so
Right.
I thought, what a service. And also when Lynn was saying she kept kind of waiting for this book to be realized, it's so in tandem with sibling loss, right? Like you kind of keep waiting to be acknowledged, you keep expecting a book to be released, and it doesn't. You have to advocate for yourself. And and I'm so grateful for the work that Lynn has been doing for so long, because yeah, it just it opened up something in me, and it brought him so much closer to me. And
Yeah.
that is the thing ultimately that I'm the most grateful for. Like, of course, I'm very proud of this book, and I'm grateful for Lynn's friendship and this community and all of these things, but it brought him back into my life, because when you lose someone at 10, you don't have so many memories of them and so many experiences of them. And so I think I had sort of accepted that he was lost to me, and he wasn't.
Wow.
It's kind of a miracle, really.
Yeah, and I think that writing, I have a lot of my clients write, because it is a beautiful channel, for the other
Yeah,
side, right?
yeah.
Whether it's
Hmm.
our higher consciousness or our brothers, like it is where
Hmm.
we can communicate and feel that energy. I know, Allison, I feel it with you. It's amazing, isn't it? It's just amazing how it can just grief, it's
Yeah,
just there, It's like we just
it
learn
is.
to live with it. Um, Lynn, how about you? Did you start writing right away after the death of your brother?
I did. It was really a lifeline for me. It was a way to, it was such a shock. And that's one of the things that's so wild about grief. I don't know if you experience this, Susan, but with a sudden loss, well, all of us have sudden losses. Um, that the shock lasted for months. Like it took months to stop feeling like this was somebody else's life.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty quickly I started writing letters to my brother. That felt and it was just what you said, Susan. It was like that was a channel, like that was how to keep that connection between us, alive.
Okay.
And yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And it also, I remember I talked about this before, but it did a couple things. It connected me to him. It connected me to my own emotions. I could feel sometimes in a day where I could start feeling kind of irritable and like I knew I needed to cry. And that was always the quickest way to get to those feelings was to write to him. And then it also like it was a way to capture memories because I don't understand. I'm sure there's science around why this happens, but in those first weeks and months after he died, memories, like just all these memories came up to me. And I look at the letters that I have to him now. I don't remember those memories, except that I have them in the writing. So it was really also a way to kind of hold on um to pieces of him. Yeah.
Yeah, I give my clients, as I said, a lot of different writing activities. Writing letters is one of them because it's such a beautiful way, I think, to keep that, to understand that the energy doesn't go anywhere. We know that they're with us, but it's the reality that we're not going to see them in this physical life again. And that's the way I felt about when I wrote my book, is it's like a time capsule.
Mhm.
I swear it comes out of the blue.
Yeah.
It's like a time capsule where you can capture, like you guys said, the memories and keep them alive. And it's gonna be like it's gonna be a book that his daughter's going to get to read one day about her
Mhm.
father, right? Because she was so little, she was only 3.5, and he has a son as well who's older, who also started to read the book. And I think that, I remember when he died over in Hong Kong, and you said it, it's such a shock. I was in shock for a year. I really had a hard time um, accepting that he was gone because he lived over in Bali. So it's not like he was a part of my everyday like my other brothers, where you get together. I only saw him twice a year. We would talk, on Zoom and whatnot. But it's when I went over there and I saw him, and I couldn't make sense of it. It didn't make sense to me, right? And this is the biggest thing when this happens. It doesn't make sense. And as a child, you don't even have a fully developed brain to even understand, like like, what is even happening. Um, so I want to ask you, putting this book together and editing all of these pieces, I'd love to know what that experience was like for each of you. Because of course, in that you're reliving all of this stuff all over again with your own experience. So I'd love for you two to share. Was it therapeutic? Was it hard? Was it a combo? Just talk to us about that.
I found it really healing. I found um, I found community in the words. I could feel people's experience, especially some of them before they were edited. They'd be so raw. Like you would feel like what someone was feeling and experiencing. And I, I, f- I feel like I uncovered parts of myself in this process. And I wanted to say earlier, and it applies here, I think for me, part of what's so healing about writing is when you write something that's true, you feel it
Yeah.
in your body.
Yes.
And that is also very validating and healing. Like, oh, this is how I feel. This was my experience. And reading other people's words, it's a privilege to be able to help them tell their stories. And I think that's something Lynn and I just felt a lot, this kind of privilege and responsibility to get these stories once they were given to us with such generosity to then get them into the world.
Yeah. Beautiful. Lynn, how about you? What has this experience been like for you?
Yeah, it's really been life changing. I would say, especially the last couple years. I wrote about this on Substack, but it's to me, it's a lot more than a book. It's kind of like this magic, this like ball of relationships and friendships and love letters to our siblings. Yeah, it's been remarkable. The pieces that are so so much the same in all of our experiences, which tend to be like not feeling validated, feeling like, loss is secondary to parents, um and also the fact that time changes the loss, but like we're all here today like feeling really strong emotions. So it doesn't it's not that it gets less, that love and that grief don't get less sad or small. They kind of stay the same size, but we learn to live around them. Um, so yeah, it's very validating to just to have, other people's experience reflect my own, and some of them are very similar, and some of the stories are very. One of the contributors writes about her sister who died before she was born, and she feels like she wouldn't exist if that hadn't happened. And so to kind of grapple with that existential, like, who am I if this person was still here? Questions that I haven't personally asked, but that I can feel empathy for in their stories. So
Yeah, Cheryl Strayed and Steve Allman used to do they used to do a podcast, and they had a series called The Empty Chair, and it was about
mm,
siblings who had lost a sibling prior to their birth, and
wow.
how that impacted their life, because you're always living with the ghost of the sibling that is no longer there. And all of these, like, they all have these different weird, ramifications and consequences, whether you're a child or you weren't born yet or you're older, all of these different things. Um, and so that's why I feel like this book, what I love about is the stories that you have included really cover so many different kinds of scenarios, and so many different kinds of losses, that I really feel like this book will speak to so many siblings, regardless of what their particular family dynamic is. I mean, I interviewed a lot of people for my book, and there was the guilt of, for some who were estranged with their sibling, right? So estrangement can bring on its own, just this weight of the guilt that people carry after that there has been a death. What was the last conversation you had? All of these different things. So what would you guys say that you feel like readers can really take away from this book, this anthology, this group of stories? Do you have any? Love to hear your thoughts.
I think it's that you're not alone. I think that's the main Michelle Peters, who's helping us so much with all of these wonderful graphics. She put that on the pre-order, you're not alone. And I just felt like, oh, that. And I think also what you're experiencing is real, because that was the message I needed to hear. Um, it's even listening to you two talk about the shock you were in after your brothers died. I was thinking about, was I in shock? I mean, like, I feel like I'm learning about myself through these stories and my grieving journey.
Mm.
And I think for a lot of people, that will be true, because I do think that we are disenfranchised and forgotten and all of those things. And so it's just validating to feel like, oh, I mean, there was a lot of narrative in my childhood home about, I wanted attention and I was dramatic. And I think that a lot of siblings who are going through extreme grief are probably told similar things, because nobody really knows what to do with them, especially when they're younger. And so just being told, oh, you're not being dramatic, your sibling died.
Yeah.
I think that's really, it's just so healing to not be ashamed of what you feel.
Yeah, beautifully put. Lynn, how about you? Were there any surprises that came up for you when you were, and that you feel would be beneficial to other people out there experiencing loss? I don't know if that was a
I
good question, but you know what I
that's
mean.
it. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, I think um Yeah, again, I think I felt my story reflected through other people's writing. There's one contributor, Jen Hilbert Speak, who she lost her brother a long time ago, and she's now, she's got aging parents, and
Mhm.
talks about in her piece about how like nobody told me about this part, that I was going to have to do this alone, and how lonely it would still be, and how powerful the grief still would be. And then and then in another part of her writing, she talks about um kind of this surprise that happens that reconnects her to her brother, and that she feels like playfulness, and that just the, I guess, the wide variety of feelings and experiences that can exist together. Yeah.
Yeah. And something else that that occurred, that you just brought up, are these different scenarios, right? If you've got more siblings, or if it's you just have this one sibling, and
Mhm.
if you lose that only sibling, because I think about my own aging. Well, my mother has passed now, but I had all of this help with my mother after her stroke, and my dad is aging now, and to do it by yourself, I can I can imagine how deeply lonely that would feel. And
Mhm.
in this talk I give on grief and loss, I talk about secondary losses, because I that's another thing that I do not think that we talk enough about.
Mhm.
You've got the death, and then you got the crap that comes up from that, guilt, shame, all of these things. And then all of these other secondary losses where, and I think that this is can prolong the suffering and the grief, is because these different, um, what do I want to call them? Like, these different events as we age, you think you're going to have your sibling there to go through it. And so you feel that loss almost over and over and over again. People who are having babies and their uncle is gone, and these types of things. And then, of course, with our aging parents, I don't want to put either one of you on the spot, but apparently I am. This is why we all practice it. So I'm giving you. But I was wondering if
Okay.
maybe you guys would feel like you'd like to read a little excerpt of your particular piece from the book, if it is available to you, and you can easily get your hands on it. And I'm talking to give you time to go find it.
I think I can find it in my computer.
And I would love to give our listeners just a beautiful sample of, yeah, of your writing. So who's got it available?
Uh, what about you?
I've
Are
got,
you ready,
I've got
Lynn? I'm
mine.
still
Yeah.
clicking around. Okay, you,
Okay.
I will mute and click around.
Okay.
Okay,
Listen.
you click around,
Um,
and Lynn, go ahead. I'm going to put myself on too.
this is the beginning of my essay called Equinox that is in our book. Uh, I don't remember precisely when I realized that you died on the spring equinox. It was sometime in that clump of early days when we were still counting the weeks you'd been gone. March 20th, the first day of spring. It seemed wrong. A fistful of salt poured into a gaping wound. You were 21, your life just beginning to bloom. Which one of you is adopted? People used to ask us. You with your wispy bleach blonde hair and startling turquoise eyes favored our dad, while I took after mom, olive skinned and dark eyed. Where on earth did you get those big blue eyes? One of mom's friends asked when you were a toddler. From God, you said, your eyes shimmering, casting your luminous spell. Did I envy you even then? How comfortable you were with your own sheen while I hid in the shadows of shyness? Whenever I think about God, about light and energy, and some way in which we might exist after our bodies die, my mind returns to the gleam of sunlight on a bubble. I was 3 years old, standing in the backyard of our childhood home, blowing bubbles. Wood chips shifted beneath my feet. Warm air grazed my cheeks. Colors merged and bent. Forms morphed, liquid to bubble to air. I was entranced by the iridescent colors, the violets and blues, the reflection of light on the filament thin skin. Something about the colors and the light and the expressionless air made me think about death and heaven and invisibility. If I can't see the liquid that once pooled in a bottle, and then as I blow through the wand becomes a bubble, does it still exist?
God, I could listen to you read all day long. I'm going to
Ah, she
say,
made me cry.
I know. I'm in a writing group with her. This is what I have to deal with. Like listening to her, it's like
I know,
it's
right?
so delicious. Her writing is so
Mm.
I don't even care what she's writing about. It doesn't even matter to me. I just want to listen. Thank you.
Yeah.
You.
So
That's how I felt when I started reading her writing. It was
I
just like,
know.
wow,
You just want to dive into it and swim around
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And it's so evocative, and you feel like, oh, you're there with her. And
Exactly what I
yeah,
tell her. I feel like she's always
yeah,
holding my hand and taking me on a ride,
yeah,
willing
yeah. You were a deep 3-year-old too, Lynn.
Old soul.
Not surprising, but wow. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. Death is not the end. My father traveled alone to Vegas to purge, to clean out my just dead brother's apartment, to prepare it for the next renter. I remember that he returned with very little, almost nothing, and the words he spoke quietly and with a gentle shake of his head, almost disbelieving, heartbreaking to see how he lived. Funny that we were such a neat family, tidy, metaphorical military corners on a bed. Funny because we were the weirdest on our block in the neighborhood, potentially in our town. My parents divorced, but living together in separate bedrooms with sometimes boyfriends and girlfriends. My mother with a muumuu and tarot cards and runes and freshly squeezed orange juice when everyone else ironed their crisp tennis whites daily and sipped martinis. Our emotional mess seeped out through words and glances, or simply by ignoring the reality of each other. Michael, my brother, always the outlier, even in death. How dare he share his disorder? Not only in the unapologetic chaos of his apartment, but in his untucked shirts and broken glasses. Why couldn't he hide it better? Where was his shame? What did he leave behind that could be passed on to his parents, his surviving 3 brothers, to me, the youngest, and his only sister? While writing this, I texted one of our brothers, curious what he remembers of the aftermath. Dad got rid of everything. All I've got are my memories and photographs of him. I remember it a bit differently. Michael left us his baseball memorabilia, his almost new car, his sense of humor, his nearsightedness, his love.
God, that is so beautiful. If you people do not go out and buy this book, this is a sample. There are 26 amazing items in this book. Wow, that just got me.
I was not expecting to choke up on that. Woo!
So get your box of tissues. Wow. Okay. Well,
You're so good at creating space for emotion, Susan. I want to compliment you on that. You're really good at it.
thank you. It is my
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine too. I appreciate it.
So, as we're coming up on our 45 minutes, I would like to know if there's anything. I mean, the sampling of that, I think, is just such a it just it's a little taste, really, of what this book is packed full of.
Mm.
And and it is, I remember after the death of my brother, I got onto a website called Open to Hope. Are you guys familiar with Open?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
wrote for them. You've probably written for them too, right? And with that, we're going to be on their cable show.
Yeah.
So
I was
anyway,
gonna say, wait a minute.
I know, sorry. But anyway, so Open to Hope, they had all of this. How I found them was because I was
Mm.
desperate to read stories about people who had lost
Yeah.
siblings because it was so
Mm.
deeply lonely. And I didn't have one friend that had lost a sibling. I mean, I didn't know anybody who had lost a sibling when my brother died. Now I know, now I know so many people
Hmm.
because it really is its own little club. But
Hmm.
I remember reading those writings in Open to Hope and just being like, just how therapeutic it was. And you said it, Alyson, that you feel not so alone. You feel like you're holding hands with these other people. And there is something that is so therapeutic about knowing that what we're feeling is real and true and it's okay, because you can seriously feel like you're going crazy in deep grief. It's such a wild experience to have. And I remember that when my brother died, I was over in Hong Kong and I had to take his daughter to Disneyland because they were on vacation. This is what they were going to go do. And I just remember this wild out of body experience where you can be in such profound grief and the world just keeps going on and people are laughing and you don't understand it. And Mickey Mouse is dancing and the drums are
Jeez.
drumming. And I thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, what is this altered reality that I'm in right now?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like stories, when we're able to share, where people have something warm to curl up with so that they are not alone in their sorrow. So,
What a
wow,
surreal experience, Susan.
it
I
was
can't even imagine.
outrageous.
Like,
No,
yeah,
it
you
was.
had to be out of your body to make it through that. Like,
I write about that in my book. Like I write about that scene in
yeah, yeah,
where I'm just like, what is happening here?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
is there anything else that you guys would like to say to our listeners? Maybe you could speak a little bit about how we can get the book. And Lynn, could you hold the book up again so they can see the
Our
beautiful,
proof.
yeah,
Proof,
and I
yeah.
love the cover. It is so beautiful. How they can get it when, because I know Allison, they're going to be able to pre-order it right
When
on.
is this coming out, Susan?
I'm going to have this next week.
Oh, okay. So before, yes. So you can pre-order the Kindle on Amazon, and you can order the paperback and Kindle on June 3rd.
Yep.
And
We're going to be
I just
doing a
want to,
book launch. We're going to be doing
we
reading.
are. Yes, we will have more details soon. And the cover is by my friend and artist Elise McCall. So I just wanted to give her, because she is so brilliant.
Yeah, the cover
And
is gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
she listened to Lynn and I talk about grief, and she came back. It just feels so comforting, but also a little needing of hope, but also hopeful. I don't know. It just it's like all the feels, and I think that's hopefully the experience of the book too.
I love when I saw the cover. It gave me chills because I'm a huge outdoor enthusiast, and it's where I spent
Same.
most of my time after my brother died, was connecting, where you feel the most connected to,
Yeah.
everything. And that's what I loved about it. And it is so filled, that green, like right now, this time of year, that life goes on. God, you guys,
Yeah.
I don't know why you're making me so emotional. I feel like I'm just really wired into your hearts right now. Jeez. Um, anyways, well, I want to thank you both so much for so many things. One, for
Thank you.
putting your heart and soul into this, the time and attention you've given to each one of these stories. This has been a true labor of your deep love, I know, for your siblings. But it's such a gift to all of us to include us in this gorgeous, gorgeous book. And yeah, so
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you,
thank,
Susan. This has
So
been
glad
such
that
a
you're part of it.
pleasure. Yeah, and I am so grateful you're a part of it.
me too. I adore both of you. I just think this has just been so much fun, and and it is a community, and you guys have created it, and I think this book is going to be a keepsake for a lot of people. So
That
thank
means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So thanks, guys. We're going to wrap it up.
Thank you.
I will have Allison and Lynn's bios, their emails. Is it okay to include your emails if people want to connect?
We'll give you, I will give you the loss of a lifetime email,
Perfect.
which we both have access to.
And I'll also have, I can give the link for the pre-order if they would like to pre-order the book, and that will be included in the show notes as
And
well.
the loss of a lifetime website. And if you have lost your sibling, we would be honored if you would contribute to our In Memory page, which is where people can submit photos of their sibling and some memories, and then we put that there. And it has just been, I think it is meaningful to the siblings who've contributed, but it's been incredibly meaningful to us, just these pictures and these memories. I am very interested in people's memories and what we carry with us. And so seeing these, so please do contribute if you've lost.
Thank you so much. I had that as a note to talk about your website. Thank you, Allison. Is there anything else you want to say about the website, Lynn? Do you want to add anything? Because it's beautiful. You've created this incredible resource for siblings.
Well,
you,
our
Molly.
partner, Molly Fowkes, put that together and did all the technical pieces of it,
and the graphic design of
and
it,
the
right?
graphics,
Very similar to the book, that kind of
Yeah.
feeling. Sorry, you were speaking.
That's okay. No, that I just wanted to shout out to Molly.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll have that link and you guys to
Wonderful.
their website too, that this is growing, this website is growing.
Yeah. And
And
we have book clubs, and we'll have one in the fall with Meg Kissinger, which we're
And
very
with
excited about.
Susan in 2026, right?
Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. So there's community in being there, but also you can contribute your memories and you can join us at the book club, and you are welcome to join us. Please
Yeah.
do.
All right, awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks so much,
Gratitude.
Thank you,
Susan.
Hugs to
Susan.
both of you. Okay, have a wonderful
Right.
rest of your day, guys.
Okay.
You too. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.